I know what you're thinking. Thor easily stomps Radagon. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's the literal god of thunder, and Radagon has the hand of the greater will so far up his ass that I'm surprised the Elden beast isn't able to make him talk. Let's face it, according to the lore, Radagon isn't the man he once was. Literally. It's really not a fair matchup, but I still think it would be interesting to go over the background of both of them and give our boy Radagon a fair shot. Now, before you think I'm sucking off God of War too hard, I should point out that I prefer Elden Ring over God of War and truly believe that it deserved Game of the Year. This isn't to say that God of War is bad. I think it's an amazing game, especially if you grew up with the original series on PS2 like I did. The impact that the new games have is borderline orgasmic. I realize, at this point, I'm trying way too hard to pander to both sides of this fucking war, so let's just get on with the video. Trying to piece together Radagon's backstory left me as confused as a baby in a titty bar, but from what I understand it goes a bit like this. Radagon was the male half of Queen Marika the Eternal. Already confused? Yep, same. According to the lore, they both had separate wills, but shared the same body. In the real world, we call this dissociative identity disorder, but I digress. Back in the early days of the Erd Tree, he/she, whatever it identifies as, led the golden armies of Leyndell to wage war on the Academy of Raya. Now that I think about it, Radagon basically choreographed a fucking school shooting. According to the wiki, Radagon was renowned as, and I quote, a great champion and warrior. Now I have a question. If he was such a great champion, then tell me why he couldn't win a single war against the head of the Academy, Queen Rennala. 2 wars were fought between them, and both ended in a stalemate. Some warrior he was. Eventually Radagon was like, fuck it, if you can't beat them, join them, and ended up marrying the bitch. How much riz do you need to have to start a war with a nation not once, but twice, and then marry their fucking queen? Much respect, Radagon. This marriage united the Academy and the royal capital, and the two went on to have 3 children, Radan, Rykard, and Ranni. During his marriage, Radagon took full advantage of his opportunities and studied the glintstone sorcery taught at the Academy. This marriage, however, wouldn't last forever. The first Elden Lord Godfrey was banished from the lands between, and Radagon was summoned to become the consort to Queen Marika. Now, I know what you're asking. Wait, aren't Radagon and Marika the same person? And to that I say, I have no fucking idea what's going on. I just started working here. My best guess is that they were originally separate beings, and somewhere along the story got trapped in the same body. Radagon and Marika went on to have kids of their own, but since they were the same person, their children, Malenia and Miquella, became cursed. Malenia was cursed with scarlet rot, and Miquella was cursed with eternal childhood. And that, folks, is what you get for inbreeding. It was also at this time that Radagon picked up on incantations with his son Miquella, who created several incantations as gifts for his father. Everything was all peachy for a while until Marika grew suspicious of the Golden Order and decided to destroy it. This event would later be known as the Shattering for obvious reasons. Radagon, however, was still loyal to the Greater Will and tried to repair it while fighting for control of their shared body. Despite his efforts, Radagon failed to repair the Elden Ring, causing the Greater Will to imprison both of them in the Erd Tree. Let us now take a look at the background of Thor, the only known character in Norse myth that is thicker than Sif. Thor is the son of Odin and the half-brother of Tyr, Heimdall, and Baldur. As we know, Odin was a major control freak and would often abuse Thor and viewed him as a weapon. Thor kept trust in Odin and carried out all of his orders and became known as a violent brute. Odin took advantage of Thor's new violent nature and had the brothers Brock and Sindri craft him his famed hammer Mjolnir. Armed with his new meat tenderizer, Odin ordered Thor to slaughter the giant race in hopes that it would prevent Ragnarok, which he blindly carried out. Later in the story, Thor married Sif, who birthed Magni and Modi and later Trude. Fatherhood, however, would not stop his violent nature, and Thor continued to carry out Odin's orders. Let's quickly run through all of the people that Thor whacked. First was Temur, the frost giant stonemason. His death resulted in him crushing and freezing his own village, which Chunks took credit for. He then killed Tamor's son, then the stone giant Hrungnir, then the 8-armed frost giants by ripping off their fucking arms. Like goddamn Thor. I thought fat people were supposed to be jolly. He also killed the frost giant King Thrym for stealing his hammer, and attempted to murder the remaining frost giants before Freya cast him out of Jotunheim and cursed him to never return. Thor and Odin continued to abuse their power and wreaked havoc on the inhabitants of the 9 realms. One of Tyr's greatest adversaries was the world serpent, Jörmungandr. Their battle was felt throughout the 9 realms and ended in a stalemate. According to the prophecy, Thor and the world serpent were destined to fight again in a battle so intense that it would shake the world tree violently and send the serpent back in time before its own birth. I won't spoil too much of the story in Ragnarok, but Thor was even able to hold his own against Kratos, which is impressive regardless of if he was holding back or not. Now let's move on to something a bit more interesting. Who has the more powerful hammer? Radagon's hammer is actually called Marika's hammer in the game, and its description states that it is a stone hammer made in the lands of the Numen, outside the lands between. The tool with which Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring and Radagon attempted to repair it. The hammer partially broke upon shattering the ring, becoming splintered with rune fragments. While described as just a stone hammer, it's still impressive that it was able to destroy the Elden Ring, which is essentially a collection of various powers that control the aspects of reality within the lands between, such as the Rune of Death. Now, this next point is just an assumption, but I believe the hammer got more powerful after being splintered with the shards of the Elden Ring, but that's just speculation. Now let's take a look at Thor's hammer. I'll refer to it as Thor's hammer from this point forward because the AI voice program almost had a stroke the last time I tried getting it to pronounce the actual name. This legendary hammer needs no introduction and is one of the most powerful weapons in Norse myth. It was crafted by the boys Brock and Sindri back when they were still relatively unknown blacksmiths. Brock and Sindri express a lot of guilt for all the destruction brought about by Thor's use of their hammer, but they still acknowledge it as their greatest work, albeit bitterly.
My brother and me created Mjolnir for the big idiot. I know from quality. And them special.
The hammer's only flaw is that the handle was made too short due to a fly biting Brock on one of his eyes during the forging of the hammer. This fly was secretly Loki in disguise, but this isn't confirmed in the official God of War lore, just the Norse myth, and wouldn't make much sense anyway unless Atreus follows in Daddy's footsteps later on and somehow learned to time travel. As far as we know, the short handle isn't considered a flaw in the game and is basically a perfect weapon, only being rivaled by the Leviathan axe wielded by Kratos. Thor also has access to a belt and gauntlets that, again, I'm not going to try to pronounce, but these tools allow him to wield the mighty hammer more effectively. Thor's hammer is said to be so powerful that it can even level entire mountains, and we can see this power on full display as Thor used it to hold back both the world serpent and Ragnarok at the same time. I think it's safe to say that Thor's mystical hammer is stronger than Radagon's broken hammer that is barely clinging to life. So let's move on to actual feats by both characters and my final thoughts. As we established in the background of Radagon, he doesn't have that many feats aside from fighting Rennala, who he then married. And I guess you can say shattering the Elden Ring, although it was Marika who was in control at that time. So let's instead take a look at the powers he displayed during the final fight. Firstly, Radagon can teleport, which is what I think would give Thor the most trouble just because he'll be harder to hit. Secondly is his regular swinging attacks, which I think is a bit slow to hit Thor. Then we have a variety of holy magic attacks, including one that shoots a burst of holy magic at the enemy that then explodes. Another that fires a spear at the enemy that creates a larger explosion. We also have his slam attack that sent off a burst of holy magic, and a variety of other holy infused swinging attacks. Next, let's look at Tyr's attacks. He has access to a charged shockwave, a lightning strike attack, a teleporting attack, He can create constant lightning strikes, and finally he can throw and recall his hammer, which allows him to be really tactical in battle, and the hammer even allows him to fly. In closing, I think it's safe to say that Thor wins this battle. He just has better speed and endurance, and a better weapon to boot. Like I said in the beginning, this really wasn't a fair matchup, but I hope it was fun to watch. Thanks to everyone who supports the channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.